2010 Romantic Create, leading in the group for the Sweet Serenade. There we go. The whole orchestra. And there it all comes. And there's fearless leader, as we say, the maestra, Magnifica. Checking it all over. Full house tonight for this wonderful presentation. A lot of people. And some dignitaries as well. There's a dignitary. We're still coming in. Standing room by the end of the evening. And the cookies are filling up with sweets. Here's the concert mistress. None other than Amanda Friat. Orchestra beginning to perform for the Sweet Serenade, October 14th, 2010. It sounds so professional. So professional.
So this first tune, Eingefallen in Nachtmusik, composed by Mozart, and this is an arrangement, and I think you will all recognize this.
terribly nervous. I had been, and am. But how then would you call me mad? The disease had but sharpened my senses. Not dulled them. Above all else was the sense of hearing. I heard many things in hell. How then am I mad? Observe how calmly I can tell you the whole story. It is impossible to say how first the idea entered my brain, but once conceived, it haunted me day and night. Passion there was none. I loved the old man. He had never wronged me. I think it was his eye. Yes, this it was. He had the eye of a vulture, a pale, blue eye with a film over it. Whenever it fell upon me, my blood ran cold. I made up my mind to take the life of the old man and rid myself of the eye forever. Now this is the point. You fancy me mad. Madmen know nothing. But you should have seen me. You should have seen how wisely I proceeded. With what caution I went to work. I was never kind to the old man during the whole week before I killed him. And every night I turned the latch of his door and opened it, oh so gently. And then when I had made an opening sufficient for my head, I put in a dark lantern, all closed, that no light shone out. And then I thrust in my head. Oh, you would have laughed to see how cunningly I thrust in. I moved it slowly, so that it might not disturb the old man's sleep. It took me an hour to place my whole head within the opening so far that I could see him as he lay upon his bed. Ha! Would a madman have been so wise as this? And then, when my head was well in the room, I undid the lantern cautiously. Oh, so cautiously. I undid it just so much that a single thin ray fell upon the vulture eye. And this I did for 7 long nights. But I found the eyes always closed. So it was impossible to do the work. It was not the old man who vexed me, but his evil eye. And every morning when the day broke, I went boldly into the chamber and spoke courageously to him, calling him by name in a hearty tone, inquiring how he passed the night. So you see, he would have been a very profound old man indeed to suspect that every night I looked upon him while he slept. Upon the 8th night, I was more usually cautious in opening the door. A watch's minute hand moves more quickly than did mine. Never before that night had I felt the extent of my own powers. I could scarcely contain my feelings of triumph. To think that there I was, opening the door little by little, and he had not even to dream of my secret deeds or thoughts. I fairly chuckled in the idea. Or perhaps he heard me, for he moved on his bed suddenly as if startled. Now you may think that I drew back, but no. His room was black as pitch with the thick darkness. And so I knew that he could not see the opening of the door, and I kept pushing it on steadily, steadily. I had my head in and was about to open the lantern when the thumb slipped in the tin fastening, and the old man sprang up in bed, crying, "Who's there?" I kept quite still and said nothing. For a whole hour I did not move a muscle. In the meantime I heard him lie down. He was still sitting up in the bed, listening. Presently I heard a slight groan. I knew it was the groan of mortal terror. It was not a groan of pain or of grief. Oh no! It was a low, stifled sound that arises from the bottom of the soul when overcharged with awe. I knew the sound well. Many a night just at midnight when all the world slept, it has welled up from my own bosom, deepening with its dreadful echo. I knew it well. I knew what the old man felt, and pitied him, although I chuckled at heart. I knew that he had been lying awake ever since the first slight noise. When he had turned in the bed, his fears had been ever since been growing upon him. He had been trying to fancy them caused this but could not. He had been saying to himself, "It's nothing but the wind in the chimney. It's only a mouse crossing the floor. Speary a cricket which has made a single chirp." Yes, he had been trying to comfort himself. But he had found all in vain. All in vain. Because death in approaching him stalked with his black shadow before him and enveloped the victim. And it was the mournful influence of the unperceived shadow that caused him to feel the presence of my head within the room. When I had waited a long time, very patiently without hearing him lie down, I resolved to open a very, very little crevice in the lantern. So I opened it. You can imagine how stealthy, till the simple dim ray from out the crevice and fell upon the vulture eye. was open, and I grew furious as I gazed upon it. I saw it with perfect distinctness, all in dull blue with hideous veil over it that chilled the very marrow in my bones. But I could see nothing else of the old man's face in person, for I had directed the ray as if by instinct, precisely on the damned spot. And have I not told you that what you mistake for madness is but an over-acuteness of the senses? Now I say, there came to my ears a low, dull, quick sound, such as a watch makes when enveloping coffin. I knew that sound well. It was the beating of the old man's heart. It increased my fury, as the beating of a drum stimulates the soldier into courage. But even yet I refrained and kept still. I scarcely breathed. I held the lantern motionless. I tried how steadily I could maintain the ray upon the eve. Meantime, the hellish tattoo of the heart increased. It grew quicker and louder every instant. The old man's terror must have been extreme. It grew louder, I say, every moment. And now, in the dead hour of the night, amid the dreadful silence of that old house, so strange a noise as this excited me to uncontrolled terror. Yet for some minutes longer I refrained and stood still, but the beating grew louder and louder. I thought the heart must burst. And now a new anxiety seized me. The sound would be heard from by a neighbor. The old man's hour had come. With a loud yell, I threw open the lantern and leaped into the room. He shrieked once. In an instant, I dragged him to the floor and pulled the heavy bed over him. And then I smiled, gaily. To this, however, I find the deed so far done. But for many minutes, the heart beat on with a muffled sound. This, however, did not vex me. It will not be heard till all at length would cease. The old man was dead. I removed the bed and examined the corpse. I placed my hand upon the heart and held it there many minutes. There was no pulsation. He was stone dead. The eve would trouble me no more. If you still think me mad, you will no longer when I describe the wise precautions I took for the concealment of the body. The night waned and I worked hastily but in silence. First of all, I dismembered the corpse. I cut off the head and the arms and the legs. I then took 3 planks from the flooring of the chamber and deposited all between the scantlings. I then replaced the boards so cleverly, so cunningly, that no human eye, not even his, could have detected anything wrong. There was nothing to wash out, no blood spot whatsoever. A tub had cocked open. When I made an end of these labors, it was 4 o'clock. As the bell sounded the hour, there came a knocking on the street door. I went down to open it with a light heart. For what had I now to fear? There 3 men entered who introduced themselves with perfect suavity as officers of the police. A shriek had been heard by a neighbor during the night. Suspicion of foul play had been aroused. Information had been lodged at the police office, and they had been deputed to search the premises. I smiled. For what had I to fear? I bade the gentleman welcome. The shriek I sent was my own in a dream. The old man was absent in the country. The officers were satisfied. My manner had convinced them I was singularly at ease. They sat, and while I answered cheerily, they chatted of familiar things, but ere long I felt myself getting pale and withdrawn. My head ached, I fancied a ringing in my ears. But still, I sat and chatted. The ringing became more distinct. Talked more freely to get rid of the feeling. They continued and gained depthness until I found the noise was not in my ears. No doubt I grew very pale. I talked more fluently. The heightened voice. Yet the sound increased, and what could I do? It was a low, dull, quick sound. Much such as sound makes when enveloped in cotton. I gasped for breath, and yet the officers heard it not. I talked more quickly, more vehemently, but the noise steadily increased. I arose and argued about trifles in a high key and violent gesticulations, but the noise steadily increased. Why would they not be gone? I paced the floor to and fro, heavy strides as it's excited to fury by the observations of the men. The noise steadily increased. Oh God, what could I do? I foamed, I raved, I swore. I swung the chair and grated it upon the boards, but the noise arose over all, continually increased. It grew louder, 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 and still the men chatted pleasantly and smiled. Is it possible they heard not? Almighty God, no, no, they heard. They suspected, they knew. They were making a mockery of my horror. But anything was better than this agony. Anything was more tolerable than this derision. I could bear these hypocritical smiles no longer. I felt that I must scream or die, and now again, louder, 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 louder. Villains! I shrieked, dissemble no more! I admit the deed, tear up the place. Here is the beating of his hideous heart. Woo!
popcorn with you. If you can make sure that the students that perform tonight kind of get first dibs on food, and then, yeah, that would be good. Again, thank you all for coming. Hope you enjoyed the music, and thanks again for coming.